questions. And so we're just switching this off. Okay. Can I remind you before we begin to stay muted unless you're performing? And if you can find the chat function, it would be lovely if you could share your comments. And I'll try and pick up some of those chat comments and share them with the performers. But if not, and I don't manage to do it, then read them for yourself, because it's really lovely. And it's a way, almost, isn't it, that we can all stay connected even though we aren't in the same room. So I'm going to start the evening, begin the evening, with a song. This is one of my songs called Restless Tide, and it's actually about those very difficult moments when we hear something awful is happening to somebody and we'd like to be there, and for lots of reasons, maybe distance or other things, we can't. So this is called Restless Tide. When the night falls before the day's begun, and the moonlight can't be found, when the mist can hide the road and all your sky is grey, when your dreams fade just like the setting sun and slip away without a sound, as the sea wraps around the shore and the stars move round the sun, I will be with you till the wild winds are through and the restless tide has run. And I will bring you the sun, a sun to hold on wintry days, smiles and laughter to fill your day and chase away the grey. And I will bring you the love of one who can ease your cares away. And as the sea wraps around the shore and the stars move round the sun, I will be with you till the wild winds are through and the restless day has run. As the sea wraps around the shore and the stars move round the sun, I will be with you till the wild winds are through and the restless tide has run. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on now to Andrew Boyd. So Andrew is a local poet, has 2 poetry books in print, Birchmere and Open Window. I don't know if you've got any more since you last came on, but they were the 2 I had. And Andrew has been a guest actually on some of our evenings before and has come on many times to share beautiful poetry with us. So Andrew, we'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ross. It's those are my only 2 books at the moment. I am actually working on 2 others, still in the pipeline. All right. But thank you, and it's always a pleasure to perform with this group. Now, I'm going to share 3 poems. None of them has been published yet, but they are really personal poems. And I hope they resonate with you somehow. Okay? Now, the first one is called Waiting for You. And if you know me, I write poetry about nature, family, especially my daughters. And so this one is for my youngest. While I wait for you, my darling, I will miss your toothy smile, your very Peppa Pig accent, your gentle hand in mine. I still hear your footsteps making music on the stairs, the rap on my bedroom door that tells me you are there. Can we sing that song in Spanish? Watch YouTube on your phone? May I have something to eat, please? Can I stay just a little more? But it's time to sleep, my darling. Off to bed you'll go for sure. But my eczema needs creaming. Then there's calm. I smile. You snore. Actual events, you know? Actual events. Okay. We were separated for a while, and so that memory kind of lived on. Now, this is about a more recent event. I got engaged recently, and I wrote this poem for that event, and it's called Now. How everything says goodbye. Fallen leaves, sage fresh from my garden, flowers given and taken in love, that love you thought would last and last and last. There's this going and coming of things that neither the night with all its courage nor the day's beaming smile can ever escape. So my thoughts drift swiftly to you, and I remind myself that today may be all the time we have. And so, even now, 8 hours later, I sit here, 7,000 miles away, loving you. And actually, at the end of that, I asked my now fiance to take a step towards shortening that 7,000 mile distance. And she did. Okay. This poem, the last of the three, is called After Divorce. So I'm divorced and separated from the girls. And I remember having a dream one night that the little one, the younger of the two, I saw her. She was in court, and she wouldn't look at me at all. And I mean, that moved me. And I wrote this poem when I woke up. So it's called After Divorce. Seeing you again after so many years brought a big smile to my face. I love the floral dress you wore. It reminded me of the yellow dress I got you a few years earlier. You were smaller then, but now you're all grown up. But in my mind, still the beautiful little girl with chubby cheeks and a hearty laugh, I know. An appendage, my external lung. Yet, it's clear that things have changed. You no longer have the smile you once carried everywhere for me. You took the stand, gave a statement. It got made into an order and sealed. And though I understand that this was not your choice, your refusal to even look at me was the coldest thing I've ever felt. It didn't matter that I was chin deep under a summer weight duvet in June. It didn't matter that it was 2 a.m. and this was merely a dream. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Those were so beautiful. And if you look at the chat and look at things that people are saying, that's what they're saying, full of love and beautiful poems. But poems that sort of, I don't know, touch my heart and obviously other people listening to them, but sharing yourself in your poetry. So it's a big thing to do. It's a big risk, and it's a very wonderful thing when people do it, and it touches all of us. Thank you so much. So next we're going to go to Antoinette Clark-Akalani, not a local performer, lives in Bristol, and joined us really during lockdown when everything went online. And one of the beauties of us staying online is that we can still keep people that joined us and people who'd still like to join us from all over the world, actually, not just in England. And it's one of the things we've enjoyed, which is why we've stayed online, really. And Antoinette has been with us and has actually joined us for plays, and that's been absolutely fantastic. One of our greatest supporters and contributors, writes beautiful poetry and shares it here. Antoinette, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rose. Thank you very much, Rose. This poem was completed on the 25th of this month, which was my birthday. And it was inspired by a person whom I've met about 6 months ago at a center that I go to, as well as another person asked me if I would write about well-being. So this is all about that poem. Okay. Well-being is a subject that is controversial. It means different things to different people. It's not just about being famous or successful, popular, wealthy, nor powerful. It is not about perfection, but about contentment. Here's a recipe to influence well-being development. Listen to this prose, and you may glean some tips to make your well-being sparkle and gleam. Rouse yourself from slumber. Forget your age. It's just a number. Mentor and inform the younger. Form bonds and networks with peers and older. Join a group and connect with others to reduce loneliness and build up friendships that may develop into positive relationships. Take a job or do a voluntary occupation. Learn a language or new skill. They aid in memory and retention. Spend less time worrying about problems and disabilities. Treat these with appropriate remedies. Remember, some folks have worse maladies than yours. Admire the little things in life, like the beauty in the seasons, the busy bees in summer, the nesting birds in spring. In autumn, the variegated leaves that fall gently to the ground. The geometric shapes of snowflakes that in winter float around. The breeze that caress your cheeks on warm and balmy days. These are just a few well-being ways. Breathe deeply of fresh life-giving air whilst enjoying the beauty of nature. Take food and fluids in moderation. Be unhurried. Good mastication helps digestion. Listen to the beats of music, move and keep active. Laugh, sing, dance, and be creative. Release the child within you and be proactive. Be loving, helpful, and generous. Make time for relaxation and reflection. These aid in mental and physical functioning. Avoid bearing malice, hate, and jealousy. These traits damage the psyche. Spend less time on negativities and more on positive occurrences. This practice reduces self-hate, guilt, and depression, and tends to develop a good sleep pattern. Practice attentive listening and forgiveness. Cherish those who show you attention, love, loyalty, and affection. These people are few and far between, so reward them with your appreciation. Do at least one good deed daily. Make someone smile. It may lift their mood and make them feel worthy, and make you and them feel happy. Give thanks for all life's experiences and learn from your successes and your failures. Live each day to its fullest, because tomorrow is not promised. End.
Thank you, Antoinette. That was really wonderful to hear. It felt like a sort of a recipe for sort of how to carry on. And a main thing that was coming out for me was the sort of connection, that keeping connection with people, which is what we've talked about. It seems to be a theme, doesn't it, this connection? It's really beautiful. Again, as always, you know, the imagery that you use is absolutely fantastic. Somebody's written there, a powerful reminder. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Lovely.
Thank you very much.
Sharing that.
Thanks.
Thank you. So it's round to me again to do my second song. So this song is called Sail Away, and it's actually about those moments in time where we realise we are sort of really in the present. And we talk about doing that all the time, like it's really important. It's, you know, to stay in the present and experience things. But I'm not sure how much we really manage to do that, really. I'm not sure how much I do, and I'd like to do more. And this is one of those moments where that really did happen to me. So my daughter and I, she was about 18 at the time, still living at home, we went off to Palma for 2 days, 3 days on our own, which was absolutely amazing, because her brother, my son, was docking in Palma. He'd gone off dancing on a cruise, and we hadn't seen him for 9 months, so I'd never been away from home, you know, other than at college, and we were desperate to see him. And there was a sort of a realisation that things don't last forever, and that we need to appreciate things right at the moment. So though this is about that, it's for anyone who's kind of felt those moments that we need to appreciate them, really. Sail away. I was glad you were there as we made for the quay. You were sent the wrong way, but you guided me. We stood there and waited, our hearts beating fast. Then we held them so tight, knowing time couldn't last. We shared laughter and smiles. We were talking just like any other day. Our voices seemed glad, but our hearts felt so sad as he sailed away. A day in slow motion, in warm summer sun, a moving reminder of times that have gone. These moments of laughter and love from today are captured forever, and with us always. We shared laughter and smiles. We were talking just like any other day. Our voices seemed glad, but our hearts felt so sad as he sailed away. Two of us spending the days on our own, two of us sharing the years that have flown, and both of us knowing that time goes so fast, holding on tight We shared laughter and smiles. We were talking just like any other day. Well, our voices seemed blurred, but our hearts felt so sad as he sailed away. Two of us waving, the ship on its way, silently wishing all days were today. Thank you very much, and thank you for lovely comments there. Thank you. So, we're going now to Jo Girdlestone, who is live in the studio. Is it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, next. Oh no, we're not good. We have got Jo live in the studio there. There's a little tempting thing now. We've got some more live music. But we're going to, I've got them in the wrong order, sorry. So we're going to Yema next. So Yema is a regular performer for GFMA, no stranger, absolutely wonderful to have you. A huge supporter of these evenings, whether you come and read something and share, but you always share of yourself with your comments, and it's such a lovely thing to do, you know. I read them, I read what you write about people, and I'm touched by those, Yema, actually. They're really beautiful, and then when you share your own work, it's absolutely lovely.
Thank you, Roz. Thank you. It's great to be here. It's a nice reprieve from being a full-time mum, homeschooling mum, a writer, trying to establish a business. It can all be really, really busy. And I really look forward to coming and getting a chance to just be myself, which is fantastic that you guys do this, so that even if I can't actually be there in person, that I can still participate. It's amazing. Today I'm going to do 3 poems, and the first one is called Benevolent Deception. I don't know how to describe my poetry sometimes. Sometimes I don't even believe I actually wrote it. But yeah, here goes. Benevolent Deception. My soul is indomitable. I have the skills to make it stick. Shall I sway to the left, or do I sway to the right? Am I willing to fight for my rights? Is it conviction, or is it simply diction? Transparency is best. Honesty is the test. Is it rhythm or rhyme in time to the number 9? Who defines what talent is? It comes down to the heart of the artist. Experience comes from an expression. It takes a lot of lessons. Survival comes with a conscience in times of need to slow down the effects of rage. What will it take? Hold on tight. It is translucent. People like me feel it. It is in my walk. It tells itself through my eyes. If you look for it, you won't find it. It takes patience. Peace lives away from the rat race. It is hard to believe that I live a different life. I was a fool for believing everything they told me. Now I have space to think it through. Benevolent deception is a crime against myself. I walked blindly into a lion's den, alone and in need of help, yearning for the best, loving people and not seeing danger, loitering in bad intentions. However, it has been 2 decades of benevolent deception. Second one is telephone. I have a love and hate relationship with the telephone. Most people who know me realize that I communicate best via texts, emails, writing. I like to see it in black and white. I'm not very good on the telephone. So here goes. Is it better to abstain when souls beside me cry? Inside my heart there's a river of fire, but I am too tired to die. This place is full of hurt. I cannot concentrate. My face is in the dirt, but change babbles beneath. So I will write about it and lay my soul to breathe. If I die in a bed of blood, the angels will take me home to a place where I belong with my mum. The truth is, I feel so alone. If I feel so alone, it has been too long. Time has passed since I felt pierced by my story, wearing tight shoes without Jackanory. I am desolate, yet never alone. Conditioning has formed me into an angry savage with a bloody bone. On bended knee, still terrified to use the phone. And the third one is, as Raz said, it's important to appreciate the present because it really is all we have. This one's called How Wonderful It Is. How wonderful it is to wake up in the morning. How wonderful it is to look up at the blue sky. How wonderful it is to put my feet on the ground. How wonderful it is to hug my little child. How wonderful it is to use words instead of rage. How wonderful it is to want to live again. How wonderful it is to overcome adversity. How wonderful it is to be forgiven. How wonderful it is to feel happy with me. How wonderful it is to have a heart full of love. How wonderful it is to be at one with nature. How wonderful it is to have something to eat. How wonderful it is to sleep at night. How wonderful it is to keep up the fight. How wonderful it is to know thyself. How wonderful it is to see the good in myself. How wonderful it is to experience emotion. How wonderful it is to have true devotion. How wonderful it is to come back from hell. How wonderful it is to have a story to tell. And that's my lot, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Yema. You know, how wonderful it is. All those poems were wonderful, actually. But it's such a range of kind of themes and what you're talking about. Beautiful delivery, as ever, and such a amazing use of descriptor words, really, that just sort of bring the work to life, and you write it for yourself and yet it touches others. And
Thank you.
something remarkable when I think people can do that.
It's wonderful to be able to share.
Yeah, it's about that sort of being able to reach out, isn't it? Which you do in so many ways. And in your writing. Such a pleasure to have you. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And now, pretend I didn't say it before, but I'm about to say it again. We have Joe Girdlestone live in the studio. Yay! So Joe is a local singer-songwriter, excellent actually, if I can say so, and has been releasing albums on the GFMA label, and you can find those on the Bandcamp, actually, the GFMA. Joe's also a member of Global Fusion Music and Arts, the GFMA Fusion Singers. And we meet once a week and have a wonderful time. If you're thinking of doing some singing, do join us.
Yes, do join us. We have great fun on a Tuesday, don't we, Ross?
We absolutely do. So I'm going to hand over to Jo now to sing us some of her wonderful songs.
And on Tuesdays, you don't have to actually come to Fosdene School. You can join on Zoom. So, Yema, you could join us that way. It's really lovely to be here. And yes, it is lovely to share. It's a great opportunity. I'm going to start with one of my songs called Pushing Back the Shadows. It's a song for peace. There are specifics about it, but I think I'll just sing it rather than explaining it before I sing it. Rosemary makes a circle of light, watercolors in honey and sky come pouring through the door, bouncing off the marble floor, pushing back the shadows. Rosemary makes a chorus of angels, guardians of the sacred heart, carried in a broken boat into the harbor, pushing back the shadows. Rosemary makes sense out of scribbles in the madness, in the chaos. Multiple lines of vision meet in the middle, pulling us in to see what Rosemary sees. A vortex of healers tending to a stranger as a mother would her child, cradled in hope, holding on, pushing back the shadows. Overriding the tide of war, letting in the light, a constellation of power with no desire to fight, singular in purpose, orbiting this pale sun, entrusted with another life and another one, and another one, and another, and another, and another, and another. Rosemary makes a painting of the world all at sea. That was 80 years ago in 1943. But the time is now for humanity. The time is now. The time is now for pushing back the shadows. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much. Shall I do
Yes.
the second one now? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So the second one is something completely different. This is more along the theme of time, actually, which I know Yema spoke about, being in the moment, and your beautiful song about grabbing the moment when it comes. This is actually about feeling like you're going so fast and you want to stop the train and get off. It's called Fast Train. Exactly what it says on the tin. I've been riding on a fast train. I see the lights flash by, looking through the glass to the sky. I've been waiting on a strange shore, watching the boats float past, wondering how long I'm gonna last. You are the last one I will see. Tell me, what's it gonna be? Is that a look of desperation in your eyes when you realize time's not on your side? No, no. And there's nowhere to hide. You know, all we have to say is let's get off this train before the time runs away. I can't fake it, I can't say it again. Well, maybe we could make it before the time runs away. Woo! I've been riding on a fast train. I see the lights flash by, looking through the glass to the sky. I've been waiting on a strange shore, watching the boats float past, wondering how long I'm gonna last. You are the last one I will see. So what's it gonna be? Can I hear a sound of desperation in your ears? Well, then disappear. You won't have to chalk away the years. No, no. You won't have to walk through the fear. You know, all we have to say is let's get off this train before the time runs away. I can't fake it, I can't say it again. Well, maybe we could make it before the time runs away. Woo-hoo, here comes the train. I wonder, will we ever pass this way again? Woo-hoo! It's blinding me, it's flying past so fast. It's like a dream. It's like a dream. Woo-hoo! 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 Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Jo. Wasn't that fantastic? Always lovely to have you with us, Jo. Just two absolutely brilliant songs and really things that people have written, really powerful. The first one, and how beautiful.
Thank
the
you.
first one.
Absolutely
It's been
lovely.
a real pleasure.
Oh,
And I'm
it's a
looking forward to
pleasure.
Suzanne.
Absolutely, yes, so am I. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because obviously none of us plan what we're going to do with each other because we don't really know what we're going to do, and yet there's quite often a theme that
Isn't it
comes-
weird?
Isn't
I
it
know.
weird?
I was sitting there thinking, oh, this
I know.
is a good introduction to my
Yes.
songs.
Yeah, I was thinking, why did I choose that? That's
Almost
really
like we
interesting.
rehearsed it.
Yes.
And we didn't.
Fascinating. So there's this theme running through about being in the moment, about connecting with others. And I think, having had a look at Suzanne's website, I think we're going to be
In tune with
in
her as
tune
well.
with Suzanne. I think so. I'm hoping so. But thank you, Joe. That was just
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Well, what a lovely evening so far, everybody. And I do want to say thank you to everyone who's performed so far before we move on to the guest. So we're now moving on to Suzanne West. I'll just tell you a little bit about her. But I think what we're going to have this evening is Suzanne's going to be revealing herself as she talks about herself and her work. And I'm just going to listen in and give some prompts and things, because I think Suzanne's going to talk more about herself in a a more understanding way than I'm going to do. So I'm going to give you just an introduction that we can find on your website. So Suzanne is from California. So here we have another absolute plus of staying on Zoom, because we're going to California now. I mean, how exciting is this? So she is a writer, a poet, a professor of psychology, and intuition mentor. She has worked with groups and individuals for over 30 years, specialising in psycho-spiritual growth and transformation, writing and creative intuitive developments. Now that all sounds really interesting to me, and I read it and thought, gosh, I just want to know more. It's so intriguing, and invites me in, to be honest, invites me right in. So I don't know if I'm the only person who would like to ask this, but I would like to ask, and I'm assuming lots of people would want to know, what some of those things are that are in your bio, exactly explaining them, particularly psycho-spiritual growth is the one that I'm really drawn to. Can you tell us about it?
Sure. Yeah. So I first of all want to say not only how happy I am to be here, but how honored. I was really blown away with all of the poetry and the music and the depth and wisdom and heart in everyone's work and everyone's being. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so
So,
much, Suzanne. That's really lovely. Thank you.
yeah. All right. So psychospiritual. I think what I'm going to do is give a little history of mine, both in terms of the development of my poetry, because I call my poetry psychospiritual poetry, and then just something along the psychological lines. And that word psychospiritual really is about the integration of spirituality and psychology, and it lives in my being probably for the last, I don't know, close to 50 years. And I am so connected to it. And I can't imagine spiritual teachings and ideas without some psychological understanding. And the same with psychology. To me, psychology is too dry and narrow and limited without the spiritual. This is just me, though. This is just me.
So that's
So,
an interesting thing to start with, for me, for you to say that. For you, those two things are absolutely linked, and that's sort of like that's the breadth of your work, both those areas. And that sounds wonderful combination to me.
and it's both personal and professional. It's just like who the heck I am.
Yes.
So, what if I start with a poem? Or do you
No,
think it'd be good to just,
whatever you
I
want
think
to do is absolutely fine. Yeah,
that
it'd be lovely to hear the work.
Okay, that's what my own intuition is telling me. So, this is called Poems Want to Be Our Allies in Turbulent Times. Poems want to be found to give the mind an ocean, to illumine our soul threads, to break the spell of the ordinary, lead us to the songs of the spoons, bees' chants in the hives, pens tapping on the desk, waiting for us, soft humming inside the walls, stars in the bedroom, offering light to our loneliness. Poems want to feed the rebel seeds in the soil of our bodies, disturb our complacency, wake us, shake us, take us across the bridges between worlds, defy the thinking mind that would have us believe its sovereignty, show us the light at the end of the linear tunnel, teach us how to navigate these dark nights of the soul from our hearts, bellies, blood, bones. Poems want to mend the gashes in our hope, gashes in our hearts, heal lifetimes of hurt. Poems want to announce the presence of the infinite, blessings of the dark. Poems want us to trust feathers and angels to be the wings, to be the moon tonight, this night. Poems want to perch on the nightstand, ready when we are derailed by night terrors, awakened by the horrors and the stark madness of these times. Poems want to teach us the sacred ways of the dark, point us to the still, festering wounds from our past, hiding in the back of the caves. Invite them to speak. Poems want to show us how to let go into the dark's deep mothering. Teach us how welcoming grief and sadness softens us to be able to care and love more, feel the anguish of our sisters and brothers, the creatures, oceans, forests, fields, the living, breathing, sorrowing, natural world. Poems want to find the poet, artist, troubadour, folded into the shadows, coax them out, tell them it is their time. Duende. All that has dark sounds has duende, said Lorca. The dark force that can breathe new life into every art form, the deep soul cry of the body, the earth, dark inspiration, dark luminosity. Poems want to bless us the way our mothers never could, the way our Earth Mother has tried and tried to bless the gashes in our hope and hearts. Teach us that we are blessable. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so beautiful, so describing the healing in poetry right the way through. That I found that really moving. Actually, it was so beautiful and so beautifully put together. Is that for you a good example of psychospiritual poetry?
Yes. I think because it really addresses trauma and wounding in a non-teachy preachy way, and then also integrates the spiritual, but like poems announcing the presence of the infinite and etc. Yeah, for me, the matter and spirit cannot be split. It's all one. And so, yeah, I feel like this poem points to that. And to really feeling and letting ourselves feel the anguish of the planet and our brothers and sisters. That's a very important theme for me, is to not be afraid of deeply feeling the pain that so many people are in and not splitting off from that in all the ways that many people do.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, what you've described there definitely came over in that poem for me. It was deeply moving, and you could feel the healing power in that, really, in that integration, I think, of all those things you've
Mm,
talked about. Suzanne, did you
mm.
want to tell us? So you said earlier that you might talk about the history of it to put something in context.
Yeah. So, without being too long-winded,
Oh, just
hopefully, um, I'll share kind of the interweaving of the line of poetry in my life and also the important line of psychological, personal, and professional stuff. So when I was 15, I had mononucleosis and had to be bedridden and at home for 6 months. And the doctor who visited me was awesome. He came every week. And I had been writing poetry for a couple of years, but I was very secretive about it. And my family poets were weird and strange, and I was weird and strange, which I was anyway. So I kept the poems under the bed. He said, "What makes you happy?" And I said, "Writing poems." And I was shocked that I told him. And he said, "I am a closet poet myself.
oh,
If when I come every week, if I read one of mine, will you read one of yours?" And that was the beginning of being okay with being a poet. And then the home tutor that came was a musician and an artist. And she gave me my first diary. And it was in the diary that I discovered the kind of transformational possibilities of writing, which has also been with me all these years. And then let's see, I wanted to be sure I got the dates. Oh, okay. I've been someone very, very cynical about anything spiritual or healing or all that stuff was like baloney. Then in 75, I was in a very dark place and I had a spiritual opening that was not from drugs. It's just something that happened. And I started being flooded with poetry that was all spiritual poetry. And my life changed really completely. I opened to the spiritual in a very big way. And then I started hanging out in North Beach. I lived in San Francisco. There were a lot of beat poets there, Cafe Trieste. And I started doing some readings in some of the cafes. My biggest reading was at the Owl and the Monkey. The man that I was going to be living with, who I was in a relationship with, was there, and he was so threatened by the eroticism in some of the poetry. And he knew that I had affairs with quite a few people in the audience. And he made me, after the thing, he said, "You're going to have to make a choice. You either give up this whole poet life of doing these readings, or I just can't live with you." And because I was giving my power away in relationships all the time in those days, never again, I stopped completely. And I thought I would keep writing, which I didn't. I stopped writing completely. And is there something you want to? Oh, yes. I I don't make him wrong for that. Um, it was me saying this relationship and living with this person is more important than the whole essence of my being and my life. And so it was really about me, and I got away from him some not I stayed with him for a while though, even though it wasn't healthy. And then I decided, and because of the spiritual opening, I was also doing some work with people and some teaching about guided imagery and intuition and all this stuff. And I decided I wanted to be a therapist, but I couldn't go the clinical route because it was just too narrow. And I found this field called transpersonal psychology, which was a miracle. And it was legitimate. It wasn't just a weird California thing. There was an MFT licensing track. And so I felt like, oh my God, I'm home. Spirituality, psychology. And my brother committed suicide about a month before I entered the program. And I came to understand when I was in the program, I had so much trauma anyway before that I never looked at. I was a light chaser with all the spiritual stuff. And thank goodness I was in a program that really understood spiritual bypassing, using spirituality to run away from feelings in the real world. And so for 4 years, no, 3 years, I steeped myself in, they require tons of personal work. In order for you to see others, you had to work with your stuff. And so I got away from spiritual bypass. I ended up teaching at that school. And those years were when spirit and psychology just wove themselves together in every part of my life. Um, yeah, so I think, oh, there's one other thing I think I'll speak to. Uh, when I was teaching at this university, um, my daughter was diagnosed with very serious illnesses, extremely serious. And I became a caregiver. I got utterly lost in caregiving. And a friend of mine pulled me aside. She was a therapist, and she said, Suzanne, you have to hear this. You are completely losing yourself. If you don't start taking care of yourself, you will not be able to take care of Heidi. And I got it. So I shifted, practice self-care, and then I applied for a grant to teach self-care to caregivers, professional ones initially, family ones. I got the grant and I taught all these workshops for caregivers focused on self-care. And then I wrote a book of all the different techniques I worked with, and I wove it in with the personal called Soul Care for Caregivers. So I have that book, and I have a collection of my poetry called Subterranean Light, which is very perfect for psychology and spirituality, that title. Ah, I hope that wasn't too much.
No, not at all. I mean, it's just so insightful to kind of hear your journey all the way through that and how each bit of it sort of connected and took you somewhere else and sort of going further and deeper and, you know, and you, I love that bit where you found the transpersonal because that kind of spoke to what, you know, yeah, I like the transpersonal as well, but it's got quite a sort of flavour, hasn't it? Of something you were able to be you with that, and I do think that with therapists that people are drawn to the model that kind of suits them most, but you don't realise it necessarily when you're, you know, personally I'm a Rogerian therapist,
and I know that I was drawn to the person-centered work. Don't quite know how, but you know, I listen a lot to, obviously, teaching as well, to people's journey to become therapists, and they're all fascinating, and yours too, in that same place. People have often had whatever has gone on in their lives that's attracted them to something, often to self-heal, to then move on to use that to help others heal. And that whole thread came right through that poem that you read to me.
Mm,
Everything you've
I'm
said in
so
there,
glad.
for me, ties up totally with what you wrote. And I can see that transpersonal edge, and that it's wonderful. It's wonderful to listen to. You were talking earlier to me. We only had a very brief moment to chat, didn't we, really? So this is, you know, we're putting this together on the moment, and as it goes, we're right in the moment, we are. But to be right on theme. But I was going to say, you started talking about themes.
Mm,
And that
mhm.
feels like that's really important to you. You were explaining, was it the 7 themes, or was it 6 themes? You were saying there were
Well, yes, the 7 themes
7 themes.
in
I remembered it well.
in my book, The Subterranean Light, I think just hearing them can give people a sense of this whole integration of
Yes,
psychology and spirituality. So the themes are ordinary grace, what illness reveals, turning towards the dark, the mother portal, the hand of death, bowing to silence and light, and the here and now. Yeah, so I think that's just like that's what all my poems really, not just in the book, but in many, many ways, they speak to those themes. Some of them are very personal.
yes.
I write in some very raw ways about my daughter and my experience of watching what she's gone through, um, and about the death of my mother, as well as poems that aren't as specifically personal.
So those themes, they're, you know, they are identified, and yet actually they all weave into each other.
For me, they do.
Yes, absolutely. No,
Yes,
I can hear that. Can we hear some more?
sure.
Your writing, whatever you want to read, really.
Yeah. Well, maybe I will read one about my daughter. Um, this is called You Are Broken and You Are Whole. This morning, your shining blonde hair, full belly laughing, a field of glow. My heart falls into place. I remember you clutching your belly on the cold tile floor in the New York hotel, writhing, burning, silent screams. You needed me to stay back. I've never felt so helpless. Disease is a cauldron, boils us to the core, disrupts, dismantles, strips layers of seeming safety. Disease keeps us in not knowing. Hello? Um, I heard someone's voice just then.
Someone's just
Can
come
you?
in, so we'll just mute them. You can
Oh,
carry on.
okay. So you can hear me okay?
We can hear you, yeah, that's okay. Carry on. What a shame
Okay.
to disturb that. That was so beautiful.
Okay. I'll start at the beginning of that stanza. Disease is a cauldron, boils us to the core, disrupts, dismantles, strips layers of seeming safety. Disease keeps us in not knowing. stretches us beyond where we think we can go, forges us in its heat, transforms, humbles. You tend to this wisely in your quiet ways. Grace is known to you. Pain and fire, the teachers that turn you towards the sacred. I do not know all the ways of your mind or see all the times you fall to your knees, yet it is clear today by your restful smile that you are watering holy seeds and sit cupped in the hands of the universe.
Beautiful. It's beautiful, Suzanne, and you can I can hear in there all that, the thoughts that you were talking about woven into that, and the healing really is the word I want to use. It's right the way through. The descriptions, it's really of the heart.
Thank you.
It's beautiful, and I really love the way you described those themes actually, and how they work for you. I think I've got a sense of that, how you're moving in and out of those.
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
yeah, it's like stages. They're there and they move in and out, and they're not fixed.
Yes. And sometimes all in the same moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's really beautiful. So, can you tell us a little bit about your writing process? We always ask this question because obviously lots of people that join us, are write poetry or write music, and so we're always interested in how people put something together, what the influences are, how you're inspired to write a poem. If you could share some of that, that would be lovely.
Yes. Let's see. Well, first of all, what comes to me is one of my very important intentions is to not write from the thinking mind, the linear mind. And of course, while I'm writing or when I need to edit a poem, I'm bringing in the mind, but it is very important to me that my writing come from the imaginal realms of symbols and images and from uh, deep feelings, no matter how dark, deep, painful, and also from the transcendent realms, from light, from awareness. And I can't access those realms if I'm locked in my head. And that shows up actually in a lot of my poems, where even in this one where I talked about defying the thinking mind that wants us to believe in its sovereignty. It's one of those things I feel so strongly and comes into the poems. So let me see what else comes to me about. So whenever I'm deeply moved by something, anything, it could be something difficult, it could be something I read in the news, it could be going for a walk and having a beautiful connection with a bird or a tree or the water. It could be having a conversation with my daughter who is, you know, all connected in spiritually or in a lot of pain, or one of my grandkids. So whenever I feel moved, like I was extremely affected after George Floyd was murdered, and as everybody was, so many people. And I couldn't even write. or anything for a while. And what's happening on the planet to the creatures and to the natural world affects me very deeply. And if I hear even one story about another species becoming extinct, sometimes I can hardly bear it. But then when there's people like Greta doing the incredible things that she's done, I might write about. So I need to be deeply moved, and that's when I start writing. And often, because it's not coming from the thinking mind, there's a lot of flow to it.
It's it's really hard to articulate, isn't it? How that
Yeah.
process happens, and I think you did really well. And you know, I'm sitting here in a room with people who write, and they're all going like that. I'll tell you. So there's something in there that kind of, you know, connected with us. That you inspired by something, moved by something, touched by something. The mind needs to be there, but out the way to let the other stuff in that's going to be the main writing tool. And it's really hard to describe how that happens, but I think you did that so well, actually, that
Oh, good.
yeah, I think we're all saying yes, absolutely. And we're all saying we'd like to hear more as well.
Okay. Okay. All right. So here is this is a personal one that integrates both. I wrote this recently. It's called Ever Faithful. Life has taken the people I believed were love. I felt empty, lost, abandoned. Of course, the tiny, tender creature that was me was never held faithfully in the silence, cradled in the human and the sacred. My mother, her mother, and hers, broken souls with holes in their hearts and bellies, like me, repeating the pain, repeating the weeping mother bloodline. Then I found who I thought were kindreds, friends, lovers with holes like mine. They felt like home until they couldn't. I begged some of them to love me, to stay. They didn't, couldn't. Life, with its genius ways of cracking our hard shells, broke me, burned the old, melted the ice walls inside my body, mind, water, tears, flow, feelings, openness, water spirits, water gods, goddesses, healing, cleansing, renewal, the gaping, gasping holes filling up with sacred waters. Now I could hold myself in the silence, abide in the full vastness, find the forgotten face of love, ever faithful, love as who we are.
Beautiful, thank you. Such, again, beautiful descriptive imagery that it's your poem, but your words touch us. You know, that's a really remarkable thing, I think, when that happens. Absolutely beautiful. I'd like to move to the audience in a minute to find out if they've got things that they'd like to ask you, and I'm sure there are lots of people who've got questions, Suzanne. But before I do, can I ask you, is there anything I haven't asked you that you would like us to know?
You know, I'm sorry, but nothing is coming to me. I feel like you've asked such meaningful and beautiful questions that I felt in so much sync with, and I don't feel like there's anything more in this moment.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. No, I think it's just kind of flowed between us, hasn't it, really? I've kind of just
Yeah,
been in there and
beautiful.
yeah, it has been really beautiful. Lovely experience for me, actually. I have loved it.
And we both have all that white hair.
Yeah, we have. Yes, we've got it. So I'm going to go to the audience now because they may
Okay.
have questions that you want to ask. I'm sure you do. Has anybody got any questions? Yeah, you can come and sit here. I'm bringing Jo back because she's got a question.
Okay.
Hi, Suzanne. I'm waving from the floor.
Hi, Joe. Loved your music. Oh my God.
Oh, thank you. Well, this has been amazing. I've been hanging on your every word, and we have been doing a lot of nodding, Jill and Louisa and I behind the camera. So interesting hearing about your process, and it really spoke to me. I don't think I could have articulated it nearly as well, but yeah, and I love the title of your book, The Subterranean, and I am very interested about where creativity is born and where ideas come from. In fact, Yema mentioned it earlier, just before she read her second poem? No, her third poem, I think. Anyway, she said, half the time, I don't know where they come from. And I always feel that, you sort of read something back. And I think that's a sign of a good poem or a good song, is when you don't really know quite where it came from. In the first poem, you repeated the poem once, and I loved that. And I thought, that sometimes it's like a song wants to be written or a poem wants to be written. Yes. And I don't suppose I really have a question about it, but I'm very curious about that phrase in the first poem that you read. The poem wants this, the poem wants that. It was as if it had a life of its own and it was coming, channeling through you. I don't know if that's the case.
Um,
Can you talk
yeah.
about that?
So, okay. So with all the years, so many years that I've personally done with my own psychological work and opening to the spiritual, I'm in a place now where I feel the divine in everything. And so I communicate I communicate with my plants and with creatures and with trees in my own little ways. I don't teach that to others but to me, even everything is animate, and even inanimate objects. And I'm not always in that expanded of a state, where I can tell what the desk is thinking and all of that. I don't want to get too out there with this, but um, so I feel like we and I can be in relationship with anything because everything has a soul, everything is alive, everything is made of the infinite. So that's what's coming to me to say. How does that land?
Yes, it doesn't quite answer about this repeated phrase, the poem wants. That's what I was really interested in. The idea that the poem is, I suppose I'm trying to, I'm kind of asking the impossible really, because we don't really know where the source of anything comes from. But it struck me that you repeated the phrase, the poem wants, and I don't know, I just really heard that. Perhaps there is no answer to how
Well,
the
I think
poem can want something. It's not the
I
writer
don't
that wants it, it's the poem.
and I don't think I can answer that in a
No.
linear way. I didn't plan.
Mm.
I don't plan what's going to come out of me for the most part. I
Mm.
didn't think, oh, I'm gonna but it was so alive in me. And
I love
it's
the idea
I
that
love
that
it,
the
yeah.
poem, you spoke about when you work from, the subconscious or the higher consciousness, that it flows out of you, it just floods out of you. So that is the poem wanting, something coming through you, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm. And it's not foreign to me at all to think that a poem like a coffee cup or my plant could want something. It's just
Yeah.
uh it's not unusual to me, so it's easy for it to come out and for me to be believing it and feeling it and kind of hearing and feeling what the poems want, but not being able to explain this. You know that saying, the Tao that can be named is not the Tao? Have you ever heard that before?
I like that, though.
It's one of my favorites. And so this in some ways is like trying to name the the divine flow of life.
Yeah. Well,
This is hard.
it was very potent in your work, so thank you. Loved it. Really enjoyed it a lot.
Lovely.
Thank you.
I think we've got another question.
His hand's gone up.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Jill.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
And your poetry and your way of reading it was magnificent.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just completely in awe of your work, and your mere mention of psycho spirituality, because it's not mentioned a lot. It's powerful stuff, and it's not integrated enough. And I think the phrase you used, the opposite of shadow work, when they run away from the darkness, what did you call that again?
Oh, being a light chaser.
Light chaser.
I was one of
Right.
those, and I used the word spiritual bypass.
That's the one. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Because I think shadow work is so important, so important. And I've been focused on shadow work for quite some time now. And it's changed my life. It's actually changed my whole perspective. I've struggled with addictions all my life, and just a certain mindset, and was chasing the light, running from the darkness, until I started writing poetry. I came to GFMA, and the first poem I wrote, the first poem in my book, is called My Shadow. And I realized, I recognized, and I embraced my shadow. And I think it's been the pinnacle of me going into my, I'm 1 year away from 50. So I'm coming into that part of my life where there's changes going on, and it's so powerful, and it's so inspiring to hear a woman who has been through it all, like a mentor. You're wonderful, and I just want to thank you. Thank you for putting the spotlight on it, because it's so important.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for being so open and
Thank
for
you.
valuing this. I too struggled for years with addictions, and so did my daughter. And yes, I know that territory. Yes. And in some ways, I think that when I look back at some of my addictions, I actually feel like they saved me from feeling the awfulness of what I saw in my brother for so many years. It was unbearable for me. And that's when I started turning towards things that would just numb me and alter my state. And so it's helped me really understand addictions, at least one thread of it in people, that sometimes it saves us. My brother had nothing that he could use
Mhm.
to escape from his anguish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But thank you for being open about that.
Thank you. We need the darkness too.
Yeah, we need both.
Yes. Thank you.
I can't wait to read your book. What's the title of your book?
Oh, it's called Poetry Sessions.
Poetry Sessions.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's I'll put the link to it in the chat, but it is available on Amazon as well.
Oh,
But
good.
if you wanted a personally signed copy, you can go to my website.
Okay. Thank you. Poetry Sessions. Ah,
Lovely, thank you. Are there any more questions? We could have one last question if there's a question. You're up for a question.
I'm not really wanting to ask a question, but I just wondered if we could hear a few more of your poems, because I love them so much. It would be brilliant.
okay.
I think
Sure.
we should do that. We could end with
Yes.
a
Yeah.
poem and then we'll
Yeah.
bring the evening to a close. It's really been wonderful to
Yes.
meet you. And
So shall I read one? I have one that I can read.
lovely.
I mean, I have plenty, but is one a good amount? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, this is called Can We Be Love? In these troubled times, are we closer to the roots as we witness a shattering of the old, as vaults of dark secrets are being cracked open? Are we at times relieved that scabs are being ripped off, that wounds and injustices can be seen and breathed now? Is our buried grief being unearthed? Do we feel the unspoken laments of our ancestors as we let in the heartbreak of our abandoned sisters and brothers who've been cast out for millennia? Is the inhumanity firing us up to love more? Can we show our tails, growl, howl, roar? Let our hearts bleed openly. Come out of hiding, get real. What about Mother Earth? Can we see our greed and selfishness with raw eyes? See what we have stolen and not replaced? See what we have destroyed? Cry for her. Help her. Are we able to see our oneness and commit to foster healing? Can we be love? Are we inspired to gather in the streets, at altars, in temples, in shrines, at the sea, and become humble before the divine, serve our sorrowing world?
Can we ask for more, please?
Oh, you want?
We do.
Okay. Uh, Okay. This is called Listening Graces the Scars. To listen is to dethrone the never-ending mind, be led by the silky hushes of sky, thrumming of roots, the blood, the sounds of blood, prose, the tears and wings inside words, the subterranean mind. Listening delivers us to the vastness at the core of everything. To listen is to love. When I don't listen to you, you become lonely, hollow. I hear anger steaming inside every word and the spaces between. We have listening wounds. We were dismissed at best. It's not our fault. We need to scream about it. Listen to our wounds. Let them speak. Listening graces the scars. Listen, feel how our words close when we are bitter. Listen to what's beyond the fortress of thoughts. To listen is to bless. Listen to the other until there is no other. I am drawn to people who hear quiet things. The mountain wants us to listen the way she does.
One more.
You know, I thought I would also let people know that I post a lot of my poems on Facebook
Oh,
and a
do
lot of
you?
memes as well. I love memes. But I don't go and look for places to publish with journals and all that stuff, but I put them on Facebook. So if you friend me on Facebook,
Yes, I will.
yeah,
Brilliant.
Can she say how we can get hold of her book as well?
Can you tell us how to get hold of your book?
it's from Amazon or it is also on my website, but that has a click to Amazon.
Oh, great.
My website also, it does have a lot of free articles on creativity and psychospiritual transformation and writing and transformation. Yeah, and they're all free.
They're lovely. I
It's
read them. I read some of them actually. They were really, really
uh-huh.
excellent. So recommend to read those. Yeah, I mean, your website is incredibly full and really interesting, really informative, and there's lots of things I think that people might enjoy looking at
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yes, and it's beautifully put together. It's got lovely images on it, and it's lovely.
Thank you. So thank you so much, everyone. I can feel people's receptivity, and it's been making me very, very emotional throughout. Uh, uh, you're just so many of you are just so heartful and open and deep. So this has really been a pleasure.
It's been a great pleasure, Suzanne, to have you with us, and definitely these evenings are really connected. Though we're on Zoom, it's as if we're all together, and I think they fill my soul really. I love being here and being part of them, and having you with us has been absolutely wonderful. You have just absolutely fitted in totally with I think with the way lots of people feel in this group. So it's been wonderful having you with us. I think a
Thank
big
you.
hand for Suzanne West. And we've come to that part of the evening where I'm going to thank everybody. A big thank you to Louisa and Jill and the whole GFMA team. I always say this because it's important to say that actually we still run lots of workshops and some of it is still online and on Zoom, so check all those out. They're free workshops and there's a big range. Also, I talked about the singing group earlier, and yes, we'd like people for the singing group. A big thank you to the audience who come and we feel you, really. Absolutely, we feel you. The performers tonight, Andrew Boyd, Antoinette Clark-Akalani, Joe Girdlestone, Gemma Mart, and our wonderful guest, Suzanne West.
And thank you, Rose.
Yes. Thank you. See you next time.
You are an incredible interviewer as well as poet.
Yes.
Suzanne, we could go out with a last poem. Could we?
More. All right. Let's see. Okay, here's a shorter one. This is called Enter. Enter the eyes of the shunned ones that lead to the heart, that leads to the hurt, that leads to the infinite, that dissolves all the names that made us two, that remember us now as one.
I'm sure you'll agree this has been a wonderful evening. Thank you to everyone and see you next time.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night, all.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care. It's nice to meet you, Suzanne.
Yes, thank you.
Nice to meet all of you.